So, you want to play Sky King's Tomb. Hello, and welcome back to Pathfinder. My name is Philip, and I'm here to talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Today's video is something brand new for my channel. I tend to focus on lore here, but my broader goal with Pathfinder has always been to make the world of Golarion more accessible to new players. To that end, I felt inspired by some of the recent subreddit activity surrounding Pathfinder YouTube content to create a video introducing players to one of Paizo's most recent adventure paths, Sky King's Tomb. For this video, I will be covering the background lore for the AP, as well as information on the primary setting for the campaign. I will also provide player-facing summaries of ancestries, religions, classes, and builds which will be particularly good fits for this campaign. This is new content for my channel, so please let me know in the comments if you find this interesting, and if you want more content like this from me in the future. I'll still focus mostly on lore here at Pathfinder, since that's where my passion lies, but AP introductions might be a nice palate cleanser for both you and me. So, without further ado, let's start with the campaign overview. Sky King's Tomb is a 3-part adventure path covering levels 1 through 10 for player characters. It is the 12th adventure path which Paizo has produced for 2nd edition, covering books 193, 194, and 195 in the adventure path product line. In addition to these 3 books, players and GMs could benefit from reading the Lost Omens High Helm book from 2023. Even if you watch this video, I recommend that you read the Player's Guide for Sky King's Tomb if you intend to play the campaign. It is available online for free, so check out the link in the description. The adventure path focuses on the dwarven metropolis of High Helm, the capital of the Five Kings Mountains region in central Avestan. Player characters take on the roles of invited guests to a cultural celebration held by Clan Tolor, the dwarven clan dedicated to the preservation and education of dwarven history and lore. Each PC begins the campaign with a contact in Clan Tolor who has invited them to the upcoming family festival. Who that contact is determined by each PC's background, which I will cover in brief at the end of the video. The campaign begins when the PCs gather in High Helm. Those traveling from outside of the city have arrived early, while High Helm natives find themselves available to meet with Clan Tolor's representatives a bit early. PCs are informed of the significance of stories of heroics to the family festival, and are encouraged to seek out and solve problems in High Helm so they can develop a few stories of their own to share. This kicks off Book 1 of the AP, which manifests as a sandbox-style adventure in the city of High Helm. PCs are expected to solve various problems around the city, building up their reputations as heroes and local minor celebrities. Approaching the conclusion of Book 1, the PCs stumble upon a relic of ancient dwarven history, dating back to the emergence of the dwarves onto the surface of Golarion. This kicks off the larger plots of Books 2 and 3. From High Helm, the PCs are tasked with delving into the Darklands to pursue the mysteries which the relic has unearthed. This quest into the depths happens in phases, and players can expect to return to High Helm at least several times after their initial foray into the Darklands, meaning the city serves as something of a base of operations. PCs will face numerous Darklands enemies on their journey, and the vast majority of the campaign will take place underground. Sky King's Tomb takes place in 2 primary locations, High Helm and the Darklands. Since High Helm is the primary setting in Book 1 and the home base throughout the campaign, I'll be discussing that in detail. For more information on the Darklands, Mythkeeper has a great video on the subject. High Helm is the largest dwarven metropolis on Golarion, and the center of dwarven culture in Avestan. With a population of about 41,000, the city is about twice the size of Varisian cities like Magnamar or Korvosa. At the same time, it is about half the size of some of the inner sea capitals, like Opara in Taldor or Egorion in Cheliax. The city serves as the capital of the Five Kings Mountains region, making it a nexus of trade and an important military factor in the various conflicts surrounding Lake Encarthen. High Helm is the largest of the dwarven sky citadels, ancient fortresses which the dwarves constructed after their emergence onto the surface in the Age of Darkness. Many sky citadels were built over entrances to the Darklands, and High Helm is no different. The city is almost entirely constructed inside a hollowed-out mountain of incredible scale. Despite this, it is easily located on the surface, as a massive carving of an ancient dwarven king graces the face of the mountainside. High Helm is ruled by King Borogrim the Hale, who is both supported and held in check by the Crown Council, an organization of nobles, elected guild leaders, and clan representatives who can veto the edicts of the king if the need arises. Two factions in the group, Clan Tolor and the Founders Guild, can even call a vote of no confidence to dethrone and replace the king. This government structure is ancient and dates all the way back to the quest for Sky. In addition to the ruling bodies of the city, guilds and workers' unions hold tremendous power due to their importance to local industry. The standard dwarven industries of mining, smelting, smithing, and stonemasonry are all pillars of the High Helm economy. The same, however, could also be said of the brewing and transportation industries. Life underground has also spawned some unique industries to High Helm. Breather walls are walls encrusted with a type of specially cultivated lichen, which processes carbon dioxide into breathable air at an incredible rate. Grindle grubs are a breed of grub which can process waste extremely quickly and efficiently, and they serve as an important source of food for the city. No discussion of High Helm, or dwarven culture in general, would be complete without discussing the clan structure. Clans are groups of dwarves united around a set of ideals or goals. These are typically related to the industry in which the clan is most involved, such as agriculture or brewing. While not all members of a clan are involved in that clan's chief industry, many, if not most, are, and members of clans specializing in a particular craft are expected to be experts or at least adepts at their chosen craft. Dwarven clans vary widely in size, ranging from a few dozen members within 2 or 3 families to thousands of members across more than 100 families. Most dwarves are born to families already associated with a clan, and are therefore considered clan members from birth. That said, changing clans is entirely possible, and is not an uncommon occurrence. Many dwarves change clans by marrying members of other clans, as households are rarely made up of dwarves of different clans. Non-dwarves can also become members of clans if they are adopted in, a process which is occurring with increasing regularity as High Helm becomes increasingly connected to the outside world in the Age of Lost Omens. Unfortunately, High Helm plays host to a semi-rigid class structure, which severely impacts the daily life of all citizens. This class structure is also expressed through the clans, and specifically through the clan daggers which all dwarves carry. Clan daggers are presented to dwarves when they join a clan, and most individuals in dwarven society consider their clan dagger to be among their most prized possessions. Clan daggers are decorated with the gemstone and gemstone setting of the clan to whom the dagger's owner belongs, and each clan has a unique stone and setting combination. In addition to the stone and setting, the hilts of clan daggers are dictated by the clan's social standing, and this is where the class structure of High Helm comes in. Gold hilt clans are the most prestigious clans in High Helm. They are typically the clans with the richest history, and the most influence on culture and industry in High Helm. Members of these clans receive clan daggers with hilts decorated in gold to signify their status. Examples of gold hilt clans include Clan Firecask, who are expert brewers, and Clan Mulgrade, who are master smiths. Members of gold hilt clans often think very highly of themselves, seeing their clans as the keepers of dwarven culture and the guiding hands who drive dwarven progress. You know, typical bourgeois BS. Steel hilt clans make up the industrial middle class of High Helm society. These clans are typically involved in industries which are less storied in dwarven history, but still require substantial amounts of formal training to enter. These include goldsmithing, military service, alchemy, tailoring, and most forms of merchantry. Clan Breakiron, a clan of inventors and alchemists, is a good example of one such clan. Steel-hilt clans decorate their clan dagger hilts in steel and take pride in their status as hard-working, skilled laborers who keep the city running. They've definitely bought into the myth of unskilled labor. At the bottom of the hierarchy are the Iron-hilt clans, who can only decorate their clan daggers with simple iron. These clans are the laborers who do the jobs other dwarves consider insufficiently dwarven. They are cleaners, stable hands, trash collectors, farmers, construction workers, miners, and so many other things. Clan Vanderhol is the largest of these clans, and members of this clan are strong advocates for workers' rights, safety regulations, and better wages. Members of Iron-hilt clans tend to take pride in the hands-on and grimy nature of their work, seeing themselves as the hardest working of all the dwarves of High Helm. The inherent hierarchy of High Helm society is even reflected in the layout of the city. High Helm is divided into 3 official tiers, plus one more unofficial one. At the top is King's Crown, a district mostly inhabited by government buildings, embassies, and clan halls belonging to Gold-hilt clans. In the middle is King's Heart, a region built on industry, which caters to the middle class of the Steel-hilt clans with a number of areas for entertainment, like gardens and grand gambling halls. At the bottom is Stonebreach, home to the Iron-hilt clans. It is a culturally rich place, catering to the interests and hobbies of laborers who are off their working hours. Stonebreach also hosts the only entrance to High Helm from the surface world, making it the center point of local trade with outsiders. And then there's the depths, a catch-all term for the tunnels and caverns which wind underneath and through the mountain. This is the most lawless of the 4 regions in High Helm, and street gangs, thieves' guilds, and members of various counterculture movements are all common here. Before I start digging into the background lore for this campaign, I want to briefly discuss the sport Basilisk. Basilisk is a semi-professional sport which has risen in popularity in the Inner Sea region. Combining aspects of both rugby and lacrosse, Basilisk is fairly popular in High Helm, and the local team, the High Helm Hodags, have substantial support. Smaller neighborhood teams exist within the city as well, so interested player characters could almost certainly find a game in need of players in King's Heart or Stonebreach. The rules for the game have been detailed in the Inner Sea Travel Guide, and unfortunately I can't seem to find them on Archives of Nethys. The Dwarven people believe that they were hammered into existence by their patron deity Torag, who forged them from metal and stone, then poured fire into their bellies to give them life. The dwarves began their existence as a subterranean people, living in the Darklands. Isolated from most of the other cultures on Golarion in its early days, they developed a culture all their own, and even had their own pantheon of gods, with Torag the Forgefather as the patriarch. After the dwarves were established, Torag made them a promise. One day, far in the future, he would send them a sign. The earth itself would tremble at a scale never before seen, and this would be an omen commanding the dwarves to begin the mythical quest for sky. The dwarves would abandon their homes and dig upward, seeking something called the sky, which Torag had promised them awaited them through thousands of feet of earth. 10,000 years ago, a massive meteor crashed to Golarion's surface in an event called Earthfall. This meteor sent tremors through the planet, which could be felt even in the deepest corners of the Darklands. After substantial debate, the leaders of the Dwarven people declared that this was the sign from Torag, and the quest for sky began. The quest almost immediately ran into problems. In the Dwarven kingdom of Felgun, for instance, a minority of dwarves declared their intentions to remain behind in the Darklands, as they did not believe the Earthfall impact was the promised sign. These dwarves became disconnected from their brethren and eventually were beset by the myriad dangers the depths had to offer. In desperation, they turned to the evil dwarven god Droskar, who provided them with his divine power and mutated them over centuries into the Hringar. For more information on that, check out my upcoming video on Droskar in August. Outside of the loss of the Hringar, the quest for sky was mired in innumerable problems, ranging from the military to the logistical. For 40 years, the leaders of Felgun bickered among themselves, leading to a crisis of leadership among the dwarves. This left them unable to deal with the issues of supply lines and security as they traveled upwards, but also made them ineffective against the many hostile creatures and societies they encountered. This included the orcs, who had been the dwarves' subterranean neighbors, but were driven upward as they retreated before the quest for sky. Finally, after 40 years of struggle, a leader emerged. Targic was a fiercely competent young dwarf who had proven himself effective in both military and diplomatic situations. He took charge of his fractured people and united them once again under a shared purpose, redoubling their efforts toward the quest for sky. For his leadership, the dwarves crowned Targic the king of a new dwarven kingdom called Tar Targath. After 50 more years of digging, the dwarves of Tar Targath finally emerged into central Avestan, where they set to work establishing their sky citadels, the greatest of which was High Helm. Even after they reached the surface, however, the struggles of the dwarves were not over. They had emerged into Golarian's Age of Darkness, and were surrounded on all sides by a hostile world. Of particular note were the orcs, who had been driven to the surface as well, and would prove to be among the dwarves' greatest enemies for centuries to come. Targic had an exceptionally long life, even for a dwarf. As he was about to reach his 600th year, he set out into the Darklands one last time, determined to accomplish some final personal quest which he kept to himself. And with that, the greatest hero in dwarven history vanished, never to be seen again. Only his clan dagger would ever be found, as it was returned to High Helm not long after the king disappeared. The clan dagger would remain an undisturbed cultural relic until over 9,000 years later, in 4710 AR, 13 years prior to the start of the Sky King's Tomb adventure path. At this time, it was taken by a member of Clan Tolor into the Darklands, where it was lost and never recovered. The offending dwarf, Krohan of Clan Tolor, was exiled from High Helm as a result. Alright, let's discuss some mechanical information which players can use. Since Sky King's Tomb is a campaign centered around dwarven history and based in High Helm, you've probably already guessed that dwarves are far and away the best choice of ancestry for a thematic connection to the story, as might be any character with the mixed ancestry dwarf heritage. Lucky for all you players out there, dwarves are an incredibly powerful ancestry. Dwarves native to High Helm will find it very easy to integrate into the setting, but so will characters from the broader Five Kings Mountains region. Other sky citadels, like Yanderhof and Kragodan, might also be a great home for dwarven characters. If you want to play a dwarf, but would like your character to still feel like an outsider, you might choose to play a dwarf from Dongon Hold, or from the Teralu or Mbeke tribes of the Moangi Expanse. These characters might be visiting High Helm as special guests of Clan Tolor to provide insight from their cultures and tales of their faraway homelands. These characters might also provide justifications for more unconventional build choices, such as draconic class features, using comedy for a bard's performance, or relying on inventions or firearms in combat. In addition to dwarves, gnomes will fit thematically into this campaign, especially those with a connection to the faith of Nivi Rambadazzle. For more information on her, I've got a video coming out in July. In short, Nivi owes her divinity to Torag, who gifted her a sliver of godhood in exchange for a gemstone. Gnomes who follow her are accepted among dwarves as good-natured scamps in need of direction, but are valued for their curiosity. It might also be interesting to play a Drathnalar, one of the subterranean deep gnomes of the Darklands, but I would talk to your GM about that, as it might have an impact on plot events later on. Humans are a good fit for most campaigns, and that remains true in Sky King's Tomb. Humans from the Riverlands, Druma, Andoran, and Taldor can all be found in large numbers in or around High Helm. Additionally, elves from neighboring Kyonin have recently been formalizing relationships with the dwarves, and elven visitors to High Helm are common enough. Ancestries with a connection to the Darklands, or subterranean life, will perform well in this campaign. These might include the Ratfolk, or Isoki, many of whom make their homes in the Depths region of High Helm. Similarly, Kobolds have carved a place for themselves in the Stonebreach level of Highhelm, and their affection for mining and crafting meshes well with dwarven society. While they aren't a common sight, fungus leshies are also well suited to the limited light available in Highhelm and the Darklands. For players who want to play characters who face some societal prejudice, the Orc or Dromar might be excellent choices. Orcs have historically been among the dwarves' greatest enemies on Avestan, and tensions between the two groups still run deep. The dwarven sky citadel Koldukar was taken by the Orcs of Belkzen centuries ago, and is still held as their capital of Urgir to this day. Ardax Whitehair, the leader of Belkzen, is trying to normalize relations with the dwarves, but there's a long way to go before the old wounds can be fully healed. Similarly, the hobgoblins of Oprak are treated with suspicion, even though they were careful in their recent conquests not to touch the dwarven sky citadel of Kragadan. Hobgoblins have recently been traveling to Highhelm as both merchants and diplomats, and so might be found with a degree of regularity in the city. Moving on to the topic of versatile heritages, several come to mind. Elemental scions of fire, earth, and metal will all feel a connection to dwarven history and culture, and individuals with these heritages will be championed by their family members and valued for the unique skills they can put to use for the community. Additionally, Nephilim, who display traits associated with the denizens of heaven, namely archons or angels, will likely be seen as having a connection to the dwarven pantheon or their divine servitors, most of whom live in heaven. Before I leave the Ancestry section of this video, I want to make special mention of Dark Vision. Sky King's tomb takes place almost entirely underground, and the presence of darkness, both natural and magical, is felt throughout the campaign. If you choose to play a character without access to dark vision, you will need a plan to deal with darkness, or you're gonna have a very bad time. Light spells, torches, and the dark vision spell are all great choices, but transformation spells can also grant players access to dark vision or other senses, so don't forget those in a pinch. Most of the enemies PCs face in the Darklands will have no problem seeing or fighting in the dark, so be prepared for that. Sky King's Tomb features a variety of encounters to challenge players. Like many Pathfinder APs, however, it features a large amount of combat, and players should keep that in mind when building their characters. If your player group wants to minimize combat encounters, however, there is ample opportunity for GMs to improvise with social or exploration activities, which might allow combat to be avoided in many situations. If that appeals to you, talk to your GM. For players interested in playing frontline marshals and damage dealers, the Fighter, Ranger, and Champion are the gold standards for this campaign. I should also call out the Commander and Guardian from this year's playtest, as both would find places easily in Dwarven society. Dwarven cultural tradition favors heavy armor, and either two-handed weapons or sword and board fighting styles. Axes, hammers, and clubs are the most common weapons in melee, while crossbows are favored at range. I also want to shout out all weapons with the Dwarf trait, as these will be commonly found in Highhelm. Standouts include the Dwarven Dorn Dergar, the Dwarven War Axe, the Longhammer, and the Wrecker. For characters interested in fighting on the front lines, the Sentinel and Bastion archetypes are commonly found among dwarves. I should also mention that the Mountain Stance line of monk feats were invented by dwarves. Monks aren't especially common among the dwarves, but those who are present likely use this stance. In skill or support roles, the Investigator and Thaumaturge will fit nicely into the themes of this campaign, as well as the mechanical challenges players can expect to face. Both of these classes will excel at the mystery aspect of the latter half of the campaign, and both can also make use of various lore skills which are important throughout the story. For similar reasons, the Lore Master archetype is worth consideration. For characters who want to use stealth to avoid encounters or scout ahead, the Scout archetype could perform well, assuming your GM is willing to play along. I should also call out the Thaumaturge's potential as a party face, as social skills can be put to effective use at various points in the campaign. And, of course, the Rogue can fit all of these roles as well. Rogues can also easily take advantage of the clan dagger in combat, which might give them an extra thematic connection to the campaign and dwarven culture more broadly. For players interested in spellcasters, the Bard and Cleric are excellent choices. While they aren't naturally charismatic people, dwarves love a good bard or storyteller, and many dwarven bards use dwarven history and legends to inspire their performances. Polymath and Enigma Muse bards will be especially well suited to the varied challenges this campaign presents. In addition to being the best healers in the game, clerics will fit nicely into the themes of the AP. Clerics of the deities in the Dwarven Pantheon will be the best choice, though a few other notable gods might be good options as well. Warpriest clerics are likely a bit more common among dwarves than other ancestries, due to their affinity for shields and heavy armor, but cloistered clerics are common as well. Oracles with the Ancestry mystery are a fantastic thematic fit for this story, but the Oracle is a pretty complicated class, and I would recommend waiting for Player Core 2 to release before trying it out. I also want to shout out Druids who focus on Earth as a solid character option. All spellcasters might flesh out their characters further by taking feats from the Elementalist or Geomancer archetypes. And then there's the Kineticist. Is it a martial? Is it a caster? I don't really care. All I know is it's cool. Kineticists who've unlocked the Gate of Earth will do well in this campaign, and the same could be said for the Gates of Fire or Metal. Finally, I want to call out a few archetypes which are presented in this AP and in the High Helm book. The Stone Brawler archetype is a great choice for characters who want to emulate the hand-to-hand combat prowess of a monk, but don't want to play a monk in specific. Instead, characters of this archetype use earth to encase or transform their bodies, to make them hit harder and more resilient to damage. It's a great choice for fighters and rangers, though most martials could put it to good use in some way. The Stonebound archetype is similar in theme, but with a greater emphasis on the magic of the earth and the transformation of the self into stone. Finally, the Stalwart Defender archetype focuses on making martial characters tankier and better at defending themselves and others. All these archetypes are available on Archives of Nethys. Now, it wouldn't be a Pathfinder video if I didn't spend at least a little time talking about religion, would it? The gods of the Dwarven Pantheon are by far the most obvious choice for characters native to High Helm or another dwarven settlement. I've discussed them in some detail in my video on Torag, but I've also got 2 new videos coming out in August covering Magrim and Droskar, if you're interested. As a brief summary, Torag is the patriarch of the Pantheon, and is a god of crafting, community, and defense. His elder brother Magrim is the dwarven god of death, and has an interest in runes and fate. The youngest of the 3 brothers is Angrad, the god of war, who takes a more aggressive stance against evil than his defensive brothers. Torag is married to Folgrit, the goddess of families and households, and they have 4 children. Their eldest son is Kols, the god of honor and duty. The middle son, Grundenar, is the god of loyalty and peace. The youngest son is Trud, the god of bravery and strength. Bolka is Torag's only daughter, and is the dwarven goddess of love and marriage. Finally, Drangvit is Torag's half-sister, and is the goddess of debt and vengeance. All these deities are opposed by the dark smith Droskar, who was once an apprentice of Torag until he was cast out of heaven for his sins. The High Helm book provides substantial detail on all these deities. In addition to the gods of the dwarves, a few other gods are prominent in High Helm. Abadar is worshipped by merchants of almost any ancestry, and many merchants make their way to High Helm. He is also popular in the neighboring Calistocracy of Druma, which has a good trade relationship with the 5 Kings Mountains. Caden Kalian is loved and respected by many dwarves, despite having been a human prior to his ascension. Many dwarven stories tell of the adventures Torag has in the Great Beyond, with Caden Kalian as his drunken and comedic sidekick. Additionally, Caden Kalian is in a romantic relationship with Trud, the youngest son of Torag, and Bolka, Trud's sister, is pushing her brother to take the relationship to the next level with a proposal. Pharasma is held in high regard by many dwarves, in large part because Magrim considers himself to be a servant of the Lady of Graves. The dwarven pantheon is universally opposed to undeath as a concept, and in this they agree with Pharasma. Finally, Nivi Rhombadazzle is well known among the dwarves due to her connection with both the Darklands and Torag. She is considered helpful and wise in her own way, but her followers are rarely trusted with important tasks without supervision. I should also make special mention of the Rivithun, a faction of animistic spiritualists who hold a prominent place in dwarven culture, despite their relatively small numbers. I've got a video on the Rivithun in the works, so if you're interested in them, just wait until August. In short, the Rivithun practice a form of spirit worship, which connects them to the spirits of nature and grants them insight into the natural world and occult practices. Members of the Rivithun might be members of any number of classes, so bear that in mind if you're interested in a character concept which doesn't perfectly fit into the class suggestions I mentioned earlier. Alright, the last thing I want to discuss are the backgrounds presented to PCs for the Sky King's Tomb adventure path. These backgrounds provide characters with a connection to Clan Tolor and a reason to come to Highhelm for the family festival. The campaign provides 6 options. Choosing the Child of Notoriety background means your character is haunted by the misdeeds of some ancestor long ago. Dwarven memories are long, and this misdeed has followed your family for generations. You are driven to confront the stigma against your family history, and have reached out to Clan Tolor to understand the methods of atonement available to you, and the traditions and history which force you to bear this burden. Your contact in Clan Tolor is an outsider, a lizardfolk mystic named Valahask, who has argued your case before the clan and earned you an invitation to Highhelm, despite your family's reputation. The Clan Associate background is for characters who have a pre-existing connection with Clan Tolor. This might mean you were born into or married into the clan, and thus have a family tie. Alternatively, you might simply work for them on a regular basis, possibly as an apprentice in your youth. You don't have a specific contact in the clan who got you an invitation, so I recommend you work with your GM to create some NPCs in your backstory who are involved with Clan Tolor. Characters with the Conservator background are dedicated to the preservation of historical artifacts. You've worked either in museums or the antiquities trade, and have made a name for yourself as an exceptionally dedicated and skillful preserver of history. Perhaps you've even recovered rare items from the black market. Rhea, a gnome associated with Clan Tolor who has an interest in Rivithuni practices, is your contact in the clan. Dedicated Delvers are characters with experience navigating the caverns and tunnels of the Darklands. You might be a treasure hunter seeking ancient relics, a spelunker looking for the thrill of exploration, or a cartographer seeking to draw new and updated maps of the shifting depths under the surface. Clan Tolor has recently begun recruiting characters with your skill set to aid in the recovery of lost artifacts. Your contact is also the gnome Rhea. The Eclectic Scholar background represents a knowledge of strange events throughout history, and a knack for understanding the meaning behind these mysterious occurrences. These events might include sudden eruptions of magical energy, the influence of extraplanar beings, or artifacts which defy explanation. Your studies first brought you to the Blue Warders of the city of Tar Kazmuk, who maintain a mystical library. There, you made contact with Rosha Coppervein, a dwarf researcher who recommended you to Clan Tolor and got you an invitation to Highhelm to study several magical or historical leads in and around the city. Rosha is your contact within the clan. Finally, the Historical Reenactor background is for characters with a passion for bringing history to life. You might recreate historical fighting styles, recite important speeches, or even dramatically act out scenes from the lives of famous figures in dwarven history. Clan Tolor likes to bring individuals with your talents and passions together during the family festival to collaborate. Your contact in the clan is Bulgra Veldolo, a dwarven matriarch and accomplished puppeteer renowned for her historical performances. Well, if you still want to play the Sky King's Tomb adventure path, that should be enough information to get you started. I strongly encourage you to read the player's guide which Paizo has put together. Again, it is totally free and I've linked it below. On top of that, I highly recommend the Lost Omens High Helm book. It is easily one of Paizo's best setting books so far. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. This was a new video format for me and a brand new type of content for my channel. So, if you found this useful and want to see more videos like this on my channel, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.